Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, where we take up important articles of the day from the newspaper and discuss them in detail as per the demands of Civil Services exam. Articles covered today are displayed on your screen and their notes in PDF and Word format are provided in the description box down below. Without further ado, let us begin. Now starting off with the first article of the day, which appeared on page 12 of today's Hindu newspaper. This article quotes a report by Bank of Baroda and highlights that most states in India have failed to meet their capital spending targets in previous financial year. Now, capital spending forms an important part of government budgeting, and this topic is highlighted in UPSC GS paper 3. And this topic is also important from exams point of view, which can be seen from this PYQ of the year 2021, which asks us to distinguish between capital budget and revenue budget. Also, in the year 2020, a question appeared on meaning of investment in terms of capital formation. Now, as you can also see from prelims PYQ of the year 2018, a question appeared on FRBM Review Committee report and spending of central government and state governments respectively. Hence, in today's article first, we will discuss why are state finances important from economic point of view. Then, we will take a look about facts related to state finances as it has been highlighted in today's article. Then, we will take a look on way forward so as to highlight measures that can be taken in order to improve state finances. First, let us start with the importance of state finances. Now, state finances are important from macroeconomic point of view of a country, as it has a severe economic impact. States spend about 1.5 times more than the central government, and hence they have a greater role to play in determining India's GDP when you compare it with central government. The second important factor is that state governments play an important role in capital spending, as about 2/3 of India's capital expenditure comes from state, hence capital spending is an important driver for Indian economy. Also, states have a significant impact on employment generation in a country, as state governments employ about 5 times more people than central government. Further, state governments' market borrowing impacts Indian economy in larger context, as states account for about 63% of outstanding debt, and this debt has reduced the availability of funds for businesses to invest in the Indian economy. Further, state has seen rising fiscal deficits and debt to GDP ratio, which results into rising interest payments instead of spending the revenue capital in social expenditures. Hence, with regards to importance of state finances, let us take a look at what this news highlights. This news quotes a report of Bank of Baroda, which is based on data of 25 states. It highlights that state government has been able to spend only 76.2% of their capital expenditure for the year of 2022 and 23. The two largest states in terms of planned capital expenditure are Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra respectively, which has an outlay of rupees 2.19 lakh crores, and it accounts 29.2% of total capital expenditures of these 25 states. Out of these 25 states, only 6 states have managed to come close of meeting their capital expenditure targets. The worst performers includes Andhra Pradesh, which met just 23% of their planned capital expenditure, which is followed by Tripura, Nagaland and Haryana. And all these 3 states have spent less than 50% of their targets on capital expenditure. Out of these 25 states, only 4 states, that is Karnataka, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh and Bihar, have met or exceeded their targets of capital expenditure, and states such as Jharkhand and Madhya Pradesh have come close, that is about 98% of their target. Whereas 11 states have crossed the threshold of 80% of planned expenditure, which includes states such as Tamil Nadu and Gujarat respectively. However, states in general have seemed to improve their record in planned expenditure in order to push forward the investment cycle in the economy. Now, what is the way forward in improving the planned capital expenditure of states? Let us take a look in the next slide. The first suggestion to improve expenditures of state government comes from 15th Finance Commission, which highlights the need of central government to improve its tax administration by broad-basing the tax base, streamlining tax rates, increasing the capacity and expertise of tax administration respectively. The second way to improve planned expenditure by states is by to reprioritize its expenditures towards more productive and higher multiplier capital projects. These can be done by investing in healthcare systems and social safety nets in line with states' demographic and comorbid profiles, and by strengthening urban infrastructure that can be an integral part of states' fiscal strategy. Also, there is a need to increase non-tax revenues. This can be done by dedicated application of user charges on economic services such as power and irrigation, which will help better cost recovery mechanisms of a state. The fourth measure is to make central transfers more effective, and this can help states to reduce their dependence on market borrowings and address fiscal shocks on account of schemes like Uday, etc. This can be done by well-defined calendars for transfers, compositional shift from tied to untied transfers, as well as reducing the levy of cesses and surcharges by the union government. The fifth and final measure that can be undertaken is to undertake power sector reforms. By undertaking power sector reforms will not only facilitate additional borrowings by the state government, it will also help reduce their contingent liabilities due to improvement in financial health of discoms. Hence, by improving tax administration, reprioritizing expenditures, increasing non-tax revenues, making central transfers more effective, and undertaking power sector reforms will help state governments overcome their fiscal challenges and will help divert more productive funds into capital expenditure. This will result into a key driver for Indian economy, and it will help take Indian economy leap forward in making a transformational growth strategy. Now moving on to the second article of the day, which appeared on page 10 of today's Hindu newspaper. This article reports that the drones were used to monitor roadblocks in Manipur. This news holds significance because it reports the use of technology in improvement of law enforcement in the country. This topic is also important from GS Paper 3 point of view. As you can see, UPSC mentions challenges to internal security and the role of technology in internal security challenges. Further, in the year of 2021 in the mains, GS Paper 3, UPSC asked about a question regarding multidimensional challenges posed by external state and non-state actors to internal security in India. Also, in the year of 2019, a question appeared on Cyberdome project of state of Kerala. In this regard, today's discussion, we will first take an overview of technologies that are used in law enforcement in the country. Further, we will discuss the significance of leveraging technology in policing, as well as challenges that are associated with use of technology in India. Towards the end, we will discuss the way ahead so as to what needs to be done to improve the technological interface with the policing in the country. Now, first, let us take an overview of the types of technologies that are used in the country. First is the use of drones and CCTV cameras to monitor the flow of people in public areas. Further, police also uses body-worn cameras, which enhances the transparency in the policing mechanism in the country. Further, to improve the traffic system of the country, police uses automatic license plate readers, which help records traffic violation done by a car. Further, police also uses biometrics and fingerprint scanner to identify the culprits, as well as use of brain fingerprinting in investigation purposes. Also, police uses mobile interceptors
so as to intercept communications that are detrimental to the security infrastructure of the country, in addition to the use of predictive analytics software, which helps identify deviant behavior from the normal. Now, what is the significance of leveraging technology in policing in the country? Let us take a look in the next slide. The first significance is that technology helps improve the public interface. For example, Punjab Police has a citizen facing portal called Sanj, which provides online services such as downloading first information reports and searching for stolen vehicles and lost mobiles. Also, technology helps in crime prevention. For example, big data plays a major role which can be used to identify crime patterns and hotspots. Artificial intelligence, on the other hand, can be used to draw correlations between types of crime, time, and location. And the findings then can be used to deploy beat constables for more effective policing, thereby reducing and preventing crime. Also, technology helps in crime detection, as technology can be effectively used to get a digital footprint of a criminal. For example, mobile forensics can be used to retrieve criminal information such as contacts, photos, and text messages. Also, artificial intelligence can be used to match fingerprints, facial images, analyze CCTV footage, and these data can be integrated from multiple sources such as social media, financial institutions, call detailed records, and criminal records, etc. Also, social media is used by law enforcement agencies for awareness generation, which help them to reach out to citizens directly by providing information on traffic jams or how to protect against cybercrimes, dispelling rumors, and countering fake news, etc. The fifth significance of technology and law enforcement is that it helps improve internal efficiency of police departments. Key performance indicators such as time taken to file a charge sheet or types of crime solved, time taken to address complaints helps determine a police officer's performance in a more objective manner. Also, technology helps in real-time integration of five pillars of criminal justice system such as police, courts, prosecution, jails, and forensics. Real time integration between the information technology systems of these five pillars help in reducing duplicate data entry and errors and can help significantly increase the efficiency of law enforcement agencies. However, use of such technologies, despite having significance, has several challenges as well. What are these challenges? Let us take a look in the next slide. The first challenge associated with the use of technology in law enforcement is that it leads to breach of privacy. It has been observed that excessive use of technology in criminal investigation has also led to a situation where police gets the personal information which are not relevant for the investigation. Also, another challenge associated with use of technology is that there is an absence of regulation of technology. In absence of laws to regulate and specify the procedure for use of technology, it leads to the discretion of police itself on how these technologies can be used and hence can lead to their misuse. Also, use of technology is an expensive affair because technology is expensive to procure and maintain. Technology is being updated every day, and with the changing technology, the police departments also needs to upgrade. However, these technologies are also expensive and changing, which leads to huge capital expenditure, which is difficult in times of crunch budgetary requirements. Also, use of technology has led to increased stress on workforce, as there is an inherent amount of stress involved with learning and applying of many advanced technologies. Officers are expected to embrace technology. However, unfortunately, they do not always receive a proper training that is needed to master the technology. Now, as we have understood that use of technology is important for law enforcement, hence there are few suggestions that can be incorporated for furthering the interface between technology and law enforcement. The way ahead suggests that there is a need to address other perennial issues, as technology adoption needs to be corroborated by long pending police reforms, which is needed to address other issues faced by law enforcement agencies, such as lack of accountability, poor representation of women, and shortage of weaponry. Also, there's an immediate need to regulate such technologies. Enactment of personal data protection law as well as DNA fingerprinting law must be expedited in order to bring regulations for safe use of technology and addressing privacy concerns. Also, there is a need for capacity building, as providing proper time for training of officers who are responsible for using these technologies can help bring confidence and thereby reduce stress, and it can also help in improving officers' proficiency in using such technologies. Further, there is a need to build digital trust, as there is a need to imbibe digital ethics, which is a broader framework which includes technology, use of transparent data to create a digital trust in law enforcement and society in a broader context. To conclude, we can say that not only does technology promise to improve police effectiveness and efficiency, to conclude, we can say that not only does technology helps improve police effectiveness and efficiency, it also enhances the professional status and incentivizes legitimacy of police work. Hence, there is a need for keeping pace with technologies that assist law enforcement globally and adopt them as per the suited Indian environment. Now, moving on to the third article of the day, which appeared on page 9 of today's Hindu newspaper. This article holds significance because it reports that the Indian Prime Minister has engaged with Diaspora in his recent visit to United States. Now, Indian diaspora is a generic term which is used to describe people and their descendants who had migrated from Indian territories. Diaspora consists of both NRIs, who are non-resident Indians, and PIOs, that is, person of Indian origins, who have acquired citizenship in some other countries. Now, this news holds significance because Indian Prime Minister has made it a point to engage with members of Indian community when he visits to foreign countries. Also, India has the highest diaspora population in this world, which is around 18 million as per International Migration 2020 statistics by the UN. Countries like UAE, United States and Saudi Arabia hold largest number of Indian immigrants. Also, countries like Australia, Canada, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar and United Kingdom have significant Indian diasporic population. This is also crucial because diaspora contributes to remittance inflows to India, which is expected to reach about $110 billion in 2022, which is the largest in the world. Now, UPSC in GS paper 2 highlights effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on Indian interest and Indian diaspora. As you can see, from this mains PYQ of the year 2020, a question appeared on Indian diaspora's decisive role in American politics. Also, in the year 2017, a question appeared on Indian diaspora and its role in Southeast Asia. Therefore, in today's discussion, we will take a look on significance of such a huge diasporic population. In addition, we will also cover challenges that are associated with Indian diaspora. Also, we will take a look on steps that have been taken by Government of India for betterment of Indian diaspora. To conclude, we will discuss suggestions that can improve the relations between Indian diaspora and India as such. Now, what are the significance of such huge population? First is that there are economic importance of such a diasporic population. First is that remittance inflows by diaspora help balance our capital account. Also, migrant workers facilitate the flow of information and technologies to India. And migration of less skilled labor to countries such as West Asia helps bring down unemployment in our country. The second significance is that of diaspora diplomacy, which is an important part of a country's soft power projection. Critical role in Indo-US nuclear deal by Indian diasporic population is an example of such a diplomacy. Also, members of the diaspora are involved in transnational entrepreneurship because they are a significant source of trade and investment in India and acts as angel investors in startups in India. Also, members of the diaspora help in diffusion of experiences and exposure as they help in spreading of Indian culture and traditions abroad. Popularity of yoga worldwide and that of chicken tikka masala in United Kingdom is an example of such diffusion. Also, members of Indian diaspora contribute to development of host countries. From example of Silicon Valley, where you can see CEOs of big tech companies are people of Indian origin. However, despite having such significance, there are several challenges that are associated with diaspora in foreign countries. Let us take a look at these challenges in the next slide. The first specific challenge is related to the areas of West Asia, where developments of diaspora is related to oil prices. When oil prices fall, it leads to slower regional growth. Also, there is a fierce competition from skilled labor of other nations such as Philippines, etc. Second reason is that due to rising conflicts and instability in the region, primarily due to Shia-Sunni conflict and radicalism, threatens the security of Indian diaspora there. Also, there is an exploitative labor system in the West Asia which is highlighted by the kafala labor system. Also, Saudi Arabia has recently passed a Nitakat law which aims to replace a large section of overseas workers with local Saudi nationals. The second challenge pertains to Indian diaspora in Western nations such as US, UK, and Canada. The first challenge is that Indian immigrants face discrimination because there is a violence against people of color in these nations. Also, due to global economic slowdown, there has been rising protectionism in the West, which has led to stringent visa norms as well as slowdown in the local economy, and this has negatively affected the interest of Indian diaspora. Also, there are general economic issues as well. Due to post-COVID slowdown, there has been layoff in tech industry in US and UK, and which has significantly impacted people of Indian origin as they are majorly employed in these sectors. Further, there are totalization issues related to social security benefits, as people who work there for their lifetime accumulate social security benefits. However, when they decide to migrate back to India, these social security benefits are not transferable in nature, thereby also negatively affecting Indian diasporic population. However, Government of India has taken several steps for betterment of Indian diaspora. What are these steps? Let us take a look at them one by one. The first significant step is that Government of India organizes Pravasi Bharatiya Summit and Pravasi Bharatiya Divas biannually. In these summits, notable contributions of members of Indian diaspora are commemorated, as well as it acts as a foreign policy tool of Indian government. Also, Indian government has organized a Know India program, which familiarizes the Indian youth of foreign origin with their Indian roots and contemporary India. Also, few years back, Indian government introduced an Overseas Citizen of India scheme, which provides benefits to Indian origin people which are comparable to citizens in certain fields and provides them with lifetime and multi-entry visas. The fourth step that was taken was Swarn Pravas Yojana, which is a new scheme for promoting the employability of Indian workers abroad. Now, what is the way ahead for furthering the engagement with Indian diaspora? The first way ahead is to negotiate a standard labor export agreements with host countries. This will help organize and channelize the flow of skilled and semi-skilled workers in areas such as West Asia and Western countries respectively. Further, there is a need to monitor and supervise the overseas workers by our missions, as it will overlook the welfare and protection of Indian workers abroad. Further, there is a need for compulsory insurance scheme which will cover the risks that are faced by overseas workers abroad. Also, there should be a greater focus on promoting tourism among second generation person of Indian origins, as it will lead to significant foreign inflows in a country. Also, to channelize the investments that these Indian diasporic population has, there's a need to issue special infrastructure bonds to attract NRI or PIO investments in the country. Hence, as we have seen, Indian diasporic population is huge, and with increasing role of soft power in diplomacy, engagement with these diasporic population is imperative for growth of Indian foreign policy. Now moving on to the fourth article of the day, which appeared on page 6 of today's Hindu newspaper. This editorial describes about a deal for co-production of jet engines in India, which will involve an unprecedented level of technology transfer. This jet deal is covered in the next article. Also, this op-ed highlights how India has signed the Artemis Accords for cooperation in space exploration, and also describes about NASA and ISRO's partnership for human spaceflight, which will catapult India's ambition in the space sector. Now, UPSC in GS Paper 2 highlights bilateral and regional groupings which affects India's interest, and Artemis Accords is also important in this regard. As you can see, in the previous year question of 2021, a question appeared on USA, whereas in the year of 2019, a question directly appeared on ties between India and United States with respect to India's national self-esteem and ambitions. Hence, in today's discussion, we will first take a look at what are Artemis Accords. Then we will discuss the key principles of Artemis Accords, followed by benefits which India will incur by signing this accord. We will also discuss the challenges that India might face after it has signed these accords, in addition to way ahead, which will describe what should be the way forward for India. Now, Artemis Accord was announced in the year 2020 by National Aeronautics and Space Administration, also known as NASA, which is the US Civil Space Agency. These accords are a set of guidelines which surround the Artemis program for crewed exploration to the moon. This agreement is for lunar exploration and beyond, and it includes participation of both international partners as well as commercial players. This accord describes a vision for principles, and it is grounded in Outer Space Treaty of the year 1967, which intended to create a safe and transparent environment. The Outer Space Treaty laid down the foundational principles for human space exploration, and it facilitates exploration, science, and commercial activities for all humanity to enjoy. And India ratified this treaty in the year of 1982. Now, signatories of Artemis Accords. After inclusion of India, these signatories have reached to a total of 27 members. However, major space players like Russia, China, and European Space Agency have not signed these accords. However, number of ESA member states have done so. Now, Artemis Accords aims to codify key principles and guidelines for exploring space generally. Their stated purpose is to provide for an operational implementation of important obligations which are contained in Outer Space Treaty and other instruments as well. These accords are in a form of single document which are signed by each country that commits to accords principles. What are these principles? Let us take a look one by one. The first principle is that the cooperative activities under these accords should be exclusively used for peaceful exploration and in accordance with relevant international laws. Also, these accounts confirm a commitment to transparency and intends to share scientific information consistent with provisions of Outer Space Treaty. These accords commits to use reasonable efforts in order to utilize current interoperability standards for space-based infrastructure and to establish standards when they do not exist or are inadequate. These accords also makes reasonable efforts to render necessary assistance to personnel in outer space who are in distress. These accords also specify the responsibility for registration of objects in space as required by the Registration Convention. These accords also commit to publicly share information on activities and to the open sharing of scientific data. While doing so, signatories agree to coordinate with each other to provide appropriate protection for any proprietary or export control information, and these provisions do not extend to private sector operations unless conducted on behalf of a signatory. These accords also include an agreement to preserve outer space heritage, which includes historically significant human or robotic landing sites, artifacts, spacecrafts, and other evidences and activities. In these accords, signatories also express an intention to contribute to multiple efforts to further and develop international practices, criteria, and rules in order to prevent harmful interference. To implement this, the Artemis Accords provides for announcement of safety zones. The size and scope of these safe zones should be based on nature and environment of the operations which are involved and determined in a reasonable manner leveraging commonly accepted scientific and engineering principles. These accords also include a commitment to mitigate space debris as in order to limit generation of new and harmful space debris in normal operations. Now, as we have seen key principles such as peaceful exploration, transparency, interoperability, registration of objects, publicly sharing information, preserving outer space heritage, and mitigating space debris. And now let us take a look on benefits that India might incur after signing of this Artemis Accords. The first benefit is that it will enhance space cooperation among Quad nations. As US, Japan, and Australia are already signatories of the accord, thus, these accords could be considered as a natural extension of Quad's Critical and Emerging Technologies Working Group. After India's addition to these accords, it will provide a framework for space cooperation among Quad nations. India is also collaborating with Japan in LUPEX mission, which is a future lunar mission to the moon's surface. Also, other benefits that India might incur is that it will attract more investments. By being part of the accords, India's space companies will now become a part of global supply chain, and this would help in attracting investment capital towards Indian space startups. Also, these accords provide an opportunity to learn about interplanetary mission and human space flights. In the 1960s and 70s, India took help from Western countries such as UK and France to understand better about sounding rockets and technologies. These Artemis Accords will provide a similar opportunity to learn about interplanetary mission and human spaceflight, especially with regards to Gaganyaan mission. Also, this will harbinger a change in space governance. Although these are not binding instruments of international law, these are bilateral agreements, and by establishing practice in the area, India could have a significant influence on governance framework for human settlements on Mars, Moon, and beyond. However, despite having several benefits, Artemis Accords bring several challenges on India as well. What are these challenges? Let us take a look in the next slide. The first challenge that India might face is that it will reinforce US hegemony in the world. as US is promoting these accords outside of normal channels of space international law, and it has provided contention to some other countries as well. Hence, it will require diplomatic efforts to evade these challenges. Further, signing these accords brings India several diplomatic challenges, as India has a traditional partnership with Russia and it has cooperated in training of Gaganyaan mission astronauts. However, signing a US based initiative will have a negative impact on these efforts with Russia. Also, the focus on indigenous program might be compromised because of these efforts, as there are fears about what might happen to indigenous programs if India were to participate in Artemis Accords. Now, what is the way ahead for India? India's decision to sign Artemis Accords, or for that matter any other bilateral space agreement, should not be completely based on merits of proposal. All such decisions need to be complemented with other initiatives as well, such as it needs to have confidence building measures with US, as India has worked before with NASA on Chandrayaan 1 mission, and NASA and ISRO are cooperating on NISAR mission, which is a synthetic aperture radar, and these initiatives have helped build confidence between India and US respectively. Also, India needs to have a strategic balance with Russia, as India signing up for these accords must not be equated to severing ties with Russians. India has maintained a balanced relationship with US as well as Russia in other strategic areas, and same could apply for space exploration as well. Also, India needs to pursue its indigenous programs independently, as India should encourage the involvement of private sector in communication, earth observation satellites construction and launch, and it should also outline its priorities for interplanetary mission and human spaceflight mission. Hence, in this discussion, we first understood about what are Artemis Accords. Then we took an overview of principles that govern Artemis Accords in addition to covering benefits for India. Further, we also discussed challenges that India might face in addition to way ahead for India after it has signed these accords. Hence, this is all for today's discussion on Artemis Accords. Now moving on to the last article of the day, which also appeared on page 9 of today's Hindu newspaper. As we have covered in last article, General Electric and India's state-owned Hindustan Aeronautics Limited or HAL has recently signed a pact to make fighter jet engines for the Indian Air Force. The jet engine deal with US will see an 80% of technology transfer, which is groundbreaking in the sense that such a transfer has not happened before, and it shows a level of trust between India and US. Except for a small component, this F414 engine will be completely manufactured in India, and it will enable a greater transfer of US jet engine technology than ever before. Hence, in today's discussion is important because UPSC in GS paper 3 highlights indigenization of technology and developing of new technology. Hence, in today's discussion on jet engines, we will take a look on key technologies that have been transferred in this deal. Also, we will discuss the features of F414 engine. We will also take a look on approval process that US Congress might take for transfer of such technologies. And towards the end, we will discuss the significance of such a technology transfer. Now, this deal involves transfer of key technologies. The first technology that will be transferred is with regards to special coatings, which will be done in order to prevent corrosion. Also, this will help bring technologies related to casting, machining and coating for single crystal of turbine blades as well as nozzle guide vanes. Also, this will involve transfer of blisk machining technologies. Further, it will also include forging and power metallurgy discs for turbine, machining of thin walled titanium casings, friction inertia welding for fan and afterburner, as well as polymer matrix composites for bypass polymer ducts and ceramic matrix composites for flaps. Also, this deal will also include laser drilling technology for combustors as well as bottle boring for shafts. Now, what are the features of F-14 engine? Let us take a look in the next slide. The F414 engine provides of a wet thrust of 98 kilonewtons, and it features advanced technologies such as full authority digital electronic control, which is the latest aircraft ignition and engine control system, and that controls engine performance digitally. This engine also uses advanced materials and cooling technologies which will help improve performance and extend the life of components. However, transfer of such technologies requires a certain approval process by the US Congress. The US Congress would have to approve the deal with two separate legislations. The first is an Export Administration Regulation, also known as EAR, and the second is that of International Traffic and Arms Regulation, also known as ITAR legislation. Only after passage of these two legislation by US Congress, then only the transfer of technology will happen. Now, transfer of such technologies holds special significance for India. Let us take a look in the next slide. The first significance is that a deal of such sort shows that the United States trusts our intellectual property right regime, and that it also recognizes that transfer of such technologies will remain secure. This deal also shows that there is a confidence in the Indian military systems also. This deal will also allow the manufacture of such engine which will be used for LCA Mark II version, as earlier efforts to indigenously design and manufacture a jet engine has not fructified, as India has not mastered the technology and metallurgy which is needed to manufacture an engine to power a combat aircraft. Such a deal will help push self-reliance in critical technologies. This deal signifies change in stance of US from tech denial to that of tech transfer, as countries before that have these technologies have been traditionally unwilling to share them. And this is why this deal to manufacture F414 engine is path breaking. Also, manufacture of F414 engines in India will help pave a way for future development of advanced medium combat aircraft, which will be a fifth generation aircraft to be manufactured in India, and F414 engine is likely to power such aircrafts. Hence, this is all for today's discussion on jet engine.